Alex, welcome back to part two of our discussion.
Great to be back, Mark. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's pick up where we left off. AI and Gen AI are sort of, the buzz everywhere. Agentic AI is kind of the next phase. We don't know what's coming beyond that. But when you think about the regulatory shifts that are happening around the AI landscape, which is really all driven by data and data at all levels of sensitivity, right? Countries like the EU are implementing things like the AI Act for forcing organizations to rethink their data and security policies and how they implement around that. How does Superna play into the solution set that is implementing capability in the space of compliance?
Yeah, so we could probably spend a whole bunch of time on AI, both on the opportunity, because we leverage AI within our own platform, but also the threat of AI. But if we talk about what you're referring to, almost everybody who's been spending time in the AI or the machine learning space has heard the terms like large language models, small language models, the data sets that are being pulled into the pipelines to train AI modules. If that data, according to, if you look at the EU AI Act, if that data cannot be ensured to be protected, guaranteed that it hasn't been manipulated or accessed by any unauthorized users, this was in the governance component of the EU AI Act, that data set is not allowed to get used, or the person or the organization that's using it is potentially liable for any downstream impacts for that, if that AI might end up creating or executing. So what we look at the data sets in terms of protecting the data, ensuring data lineage, ensuring data compliance, ensuring that data has not been engaged with in a nefarious way, has not been manipulated, to make sure that the output of the AI and ML training doesn't come out to be nefarious or have some sort of an ulterior motive. That's on the security side of the house. Interestingly enough, when you meet with data scientists, at least in our experience, there's less concern about security. There's more concern about data cleanliness and data usability. So it's kind of funny, our same capability that allows us to see what's happening with data in real time, whether it's an attack, whether it's a deletion event, whether it's an extortion event, that same capability allows us to ensure that a data set hasn't been manipulated, encrypted, deleted. So the data cleanliness is also maintained. And when I went to GTC last year, the common theme for security from the data scientist community was more around the data being impacted so that the training of a model could end up becoming severely delayed or hampered. So if you have a 90-day training cycle for your AI module and you hit day 85 and you get an encrypted or deleted block, you could end up losing all of that time, losing all of that GPU spend, and you have to go back to the beginning. So there are two primary use cases for the security and the auditing of data within the AI space. And they fall both into a security bucket, like I mentioned earlier, but also into a data readiness and data cleanliness bucket.
CDO Magazine is like Superna is a gap filler. I was one of the co-directors at the MIT CDO IQ Symposium program way back in 2012. And we would bring CDOs together and have this rich conversation about how could you enable your organization to take advantage of data safely, right? And what would your collaboration need to be with your security teams to address some of these concerns and issues? And it's taken us, more than a decade to really get to the point where an organization like Superna is forcing that collaboration into the center stage of how things get done. So I applaud you for that. And as you guys look at security and data teams operating in a combined world, not separate worlds, why is that really, in your view, an important thing to foster? And how is Superna causing that Venn diagram overlap to become greater and more impactful in securing the data in the organization?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, as we highlight different groups that have not traditionally worked together, except if there were an event or a terrible thing happening where they're forced to come together, the security and data and storage teams is a perfect example of that. if you think about what security teams are tasked with doing, and you think about how many tools they have and how much training they've gone through and how much money they're spending on these tools, which are all required, right? Most of those organizations and those tools and those workflows are not set up to include the storage environment, the data environment in things like incident response. They're not really seeing into these areas on the storage and data side when there's an attack or a compromise taking place. They're almost blind to it. And so as we were working for so many years within the data and storage environment specifically, we were catering a lot to the storage admins and using security capability as a differentiator. Dell was especially against competition, saying, we can ensure the data is never manipulated or deleted or encrypted. But still, at that point, there was no bridging of the gap with the security teams. And I can't tell you how many customers and prospects I sit down with where the storage and data teams are saying, hey, this is a security event. Like, yes, I own the storage array, but this is some outside or inside bad actor who got in and manipulated and did something at the storage device, and we were able to protect it. But I mean, this is a security issue. So we took that feedback head on a couple of years back, and we started investing very, very heavily into the common security tool chains, the SIMs, the SOARs, the endpoint protection capabilities, the attack surface management area, which we can talk about in a little bit too. We're very excited about that. That's actually becoming exposure assessment platforming category. That's pretty exciting. But we decided to work with the security teams and build integrations that allowed them to see everything that happened with the event that occurred at the storage layer. In a way, we are making the storage layer a new endpoint that is now part of the security incident management response. Because before, they were kind of blind to it. Now, when our customers have an incident that makes its way to the storage, not only are we locking out that incident, we're denying that user access to the data. If there's anything that's been impacted, we're restoring in place within seconds. But even more importantly than that, we are actually telling in the tools that they're trained to use, we're telling the security teams exactly what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and allowing them to go execute their security workflows like quarantining a host or kicking a host off a network or conducting an investigation. They have everything they need to be able to successfully respond from an incident management perspective. And that never occurred before, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, the storage device potentially is your endpoint, your most precious endpoint, because that's
where the data lives.
Your data.
At rest, that's where the data live, right? It's being compromised when it sits there. Alex, that was so interesting. As we wrap up this segment of our discussion, thinking about the third installment of this discussion, any final parting comments or setups for what you're going to share in part 3?
So much of what we have been focusing on as a company, and I see also we with our partners and our integration partners have been focusing on as an industry, is really putting the underpinnings in place for the incredible capabilities we're excited to release in the future. So I'm looking forward to the next segment.
I've had the pleasure today, everyone, of spending time with Alex Hesterberg, CEO of Superna, and this has been a great interview. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Alex, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you, Mark.